Hey, before we start the LMI portion of this lab, I want to share something with you, and you can see a little bit of it on the screen about some DELCs changing. I went ahead and removed the PPP commands from the routers, and when I put on the frame relay config so we could have this lab to work with the LMIs, router 1s wouldn't work. And there was no reason for it not to, which of course is the one that drives you the most crazy, right? You're sitting there looking at the config and you're running the game, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. And of course, being my own best student, I checked the physical layer first, and I ran show controller serial 0, and the port was the cable was in place. Everything was in place, and it was odd, and I just thought, I was moving some cables earlier. Let me go see if that cable has come just loose enough to screw things up, but not loose enough to register as a down cable. And that's exactly what had happened. As soon as I looked at it, I saw that it was just the tiniest bit askew, and I could feel, I pushed it in, I felt it go in, I was like, oh, okay. And as you can see, by the time I got back here, the DELCs had already come back up, everything was lovely. So just a quick reminder there, a quick troubleshooting reminder, even if the screen is telling you, yes, the cable is there and everything's fine that way, it never hurts to go check and just reseat it, or in my case, I didn't even take it out and put it back in. I just pushed it back in and I could feel it grab. It was just, I don't know, a millionth of an inch out of there, because it is odd. I've seen that before where the router says, yes, DTE cable is right here, no problem at all, but the cable is just loose enough to botch up your transmission. So, bonus troubleshooting lecture there for both me and you, because I had to live it before we could go on with the course. Now let's go ahead and run show frame LMI on our now healthy frame relay network. And it's only been up for a few minutes, but we've already got some messages here. And I'm going to tell you in the study guide, if you chose to buy that, these numbers I edit out after I think the first show, because we're not working with any of these right now. So if that's the case, just want to give you a bulletin on that, because the ones I want everybody to be aware of are the ones down here, especially inquiry sent, messages received, and timeout. So don't look at this and say, oh man, I got to learn what all 14 of these mean. You don't. It's inquiry sent, messages received, and number of status timeouts that we are most interested in right now. And you can see while I was blathering that you've got 4 more messages coming in on both of those two. This command also tells you what interfaces you're running frame relay on, frame relay DTE, LMI stats for interface serial 0. The LMI type is Cisco, which is the default. And everything's just fine. And this is actually what you want to see. You want to see the inquiries sent and the messages received, because these are your LMI messages. And you can see it's incremented just a little bit since then. You can also see how often they go out right here, because you can see where we have seen encapsulation frame, PPP and HDLC in earlier labs. We now see frame relay, and there's the keep alive set to 10 seconds. That's how often your LMIs are going out and should be received. And here's some other LMI information for you as well. And it's going to tell you right here, DTE LMI up. So there's some good information a little further down in show interface serial 0 too. I know we've pretty much been stopping right here, but now we're creeping down a little bit. There's your LMI information, and you can get that with debug frame LMI, show frame LMI, and show interface serial 0. And right now you're saying, but you haven't shown us debug frame LMI yet. Well, I'm going to fix that right now. And there's a pretty good bit of information coming in and going out on these. So some of it will look like your native tongue, and some of it might not. Unless you speak fluent hex, this might mean something to you. We all speak a little hex, right? A, B, C, D, E, F. We got that part. Okay, and you can see we've got messages going out. You've got messages coming in. And you'll notice there's all kinds of incrementing going on here. This my sequence or my sec is 48, then 49, then 50. And then we've got 2 others here that are incrementing. So as long as these numbers continue to increment, you're gold. You're perfectly fine. So what we will do right now is do a UAll. And we're going to go in. We've done show frame LMI, debug frame LMI, and we looked at the LMI info in show interface serial 0. And now let's go ahead and mess with the mismatch a little bit and also see how to change it. The full command is frame relay. I usually just refer to it as frame. And no, we are not going over all these commands here, but we've got a couple here we want to look at. We can leave all these LMIs alone. We're not concerned with that one. What we're concerned with right here is LMI type. So let's put that in. And boy, this would be a good exam question, would it not? Good practice exam question. Cisco, ANSI, and Q933A are your LMI types, and Cisco is the default. So now we're going to mess with it a little bit and introduce a fault, and then we'll just see what the heck happens. Let's go with ANSI. Now let's go ahead and run our debug frame LMI. Notice the line protocol has not come down yet, because this is another thing that can crash your line protocol. We're seeing a lot of those in this section. We haven't seen anything there yet, but also notice we're not getting as many messages. Notice now we're just seeing something about an outbound message. And that just means we're sending them, and we may still be getting them, but they're not the ones we expect. And you can see the DTE up here, because now we're expecting ANSI, and of course we're getting Cisco. And there you go. So that's about the time period. You could see 36 seconds here, and of course there was some time before that. But the magic number is 3. When you miss 3 LMIs, it's going to go down. And you see the line protocol change state to down. And this, of course, will continue. But note again, you're not seeing anything about inbound messages, because the router's looking for ANSI now, and it's getting Cisco messages. So let's see, how else could we detect that if we didn't know about the debug? That's one way. Here's your LMI information again, and you can see it's telling you right there at the very end, DT LMI down. And whenever these messages, these numbers start getting way away from each other, inquiries sent and status messages received, that's usually not good. But where you can really see it is show frame LMI. And now notice that these timeouts have started adding up. Our inquiries sent will continue to increment because we are sending something out. But notice the messages received, now they're 10 apart. And your timeouts, as we will see, continue to increment. You also see the LMI type equals ANSI now, and that, of course, is the problem. So you can see the inquiries sent continue to increment. The messages received do not. That's always bad. And anytime the number of timeouts continue to increment, that's not good either. So we know that a mismatch can bring it down. We know what a mismatch looks like with a debug and a couple of show commands. So let's go ahead and run that again. And we'll put the LMI type back. There are your 3 types again. I could have just done no frame LMI type ANSI, and that would have gone back to the default, which would be Cisco as well. And now let's just hang out and see what happens with our debug. Now we're seeing the messages come in again. Status MySequence 1. The DTE is still down. And it's still serial 0 in. We're looking good there. In and out. We've had 2 messages come in. On the third one, I believe we'll see the line protocol go up, and there it goes right there. Third message came in. MySequence goes to 3, and the line protocol has changed state to up. That's really all there is to the LMI. You know the 3 types. You know how the LMI AutoSense works. And you also have seen how to change it manually, and how to debug it, how to verify it, and how to troubleshoot it. So a lot going on there with the LMI. Now what we're going to do is during our break, I'm going to write erase the entire config, reload the router, so we're starting totally from scratch with our next lab. And that's going to be building a frame relay hub and spoke config from the ground up. And we got to get that right, because if we don't have layer 2 right, we're sure not going to be able to run layer 3 protocols on top of it. So take a breather. I'll see you on the next video. We'll build that network.